All right. What is up, guys? It is K Rad here. Back at it once again. I'm back at it with a good live stream for y'all. I got MMA fighter today with Skyler Suarez. I have him in the lobby. I'm gonna bring him in right now. Hey, how are you, Skyler?
Good, and you?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing amazing. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Yeah. First things first. I just wanted to ask you. I guess that's the first question. Just introduce like yourself and tell the audience how'd you get into MMA, right?
Of course, I'm Skyler Suarez. I'm 14 years old. Got into MMA. I've always fell in love with the sport. My parents put me into it when I was 12, and ever since then, I just fell in love with it.
Oh, nice. I wanted to ask, like, in regards to your development, like, how did you manage to get into MMA to like drive you, like, into it? Did you have like other people that you looked up to that got you into it?
Of course, obviously, my main supporters and the people who actually brought me into it, obviously my parents, they really pushed me to do it as just for as a hobby from start. But when I really got into it, I just really fell in love with it. Just the sport in general. Even when I was younger, like growing up, I used to watch like WWE, UFC, and I just really loved it, but never really put any effort to do it. So when my parents pushed me to do it as just for self defense, I just fell in love with it the first day I just kicked the bag. It was just amazing.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because I wanted to follow up with that. Because like I think like in relation to boxing in a way, like it seems like with the sport of MMA, there's like a more I would say like a I guess like a stronger connection with like the stables that bring you up. And I was just like curious, like in regards to like how you develop like your I guess like your commitment to MMA. Did you like have like a strong stable that got you influence like into it?
Um, I could say my sensei. He's former CFFC welterweight champion, the inaugural welterweight Bellator champion, and a UFC welterweight contender.
Oh, nice.
Ever since he took me under his wing and like showed me the ropes and everything, I always looked up to him. He helped me get through it, and it's helping me reach my dream.
Nice. That's really interesting that you say that because I used to wrestle back in high school, and I don't know if you know this former UFC fighter by the name of Dennis Bermudez. He actually came over to my high school back when I used to wrestle, and he used to teach everybody. I guess like his fighting style, and a lot of like his experience that he was influenced by mostly came from a lot of what the wrestling background and other mixed martial arts that got him like to that level of what like pass his skill sets down to other people.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, speaking of which, I see that you have like a pretty good style with like the striking. Do you focus more on boxing, or do you mainly utilize, I guess, like a lot of grappling skills?
Well, I utilize like overall everything, but I like to practice more grappling due to the fact that since I'm still young, the only competitions I could go to are like grappling events. So I mostly focus on grappling, but I also focus on kickboxing as well, just to get the overall sport of mixed martial arts.
Yeah. Because I was just like curious to ask that because I assume with MMA, it's not like boxing where you can go right into the amateurs and start fighting at like a young age. But in terms of like how your roadmap is going, are you just doing that to like get like your style prepared, so that way once you get into like the pros to actually fight, like that will prepare you to like understand what type of styles that you run into at the higher level.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just keep on like getting my skills better. So by the time I'm able to fight in the cage, I could be prepared mentally and physically. So as soon as I step into the cage, I know what to do and I have enough confidence in myself to actually put it all out there.
Yeah. Now that you had said that, do you have like a certain type of style that you focus on when you train? Do you like to be more of like a mover, boxer, puncher, pressure fighter? How does that work with an MMA?
So with my kickboxing style, since I'm tall and I have length and reach, I usually stay on the outside mostly, and I use my kicks and I use mostly my hands to just set a lot of stuff up because that's the main thing. How to start setting up kicks and punches is just a jab. Same thing with my lead leg. I'm more of an outside fighter, but when I have to get down and dirty and I have to close in that gap, I get in there. I'll probably throw in a couple of knees as well, because it's always that Muay Thai grip where you go over the head and start throwing knees. So yeah, I'm more of an outside fighter, but I usually get in there once in a while.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that because I was kind of thinking like that's how most of the MMA fighters usually do. I used to go to a MMA gym back up in New York because I'm from Albany, and I used to go to like a gym out in Troy where um, a lot of what the fighters were actually utilizing that type of fighting, I guess like strategy, and it seems like in most MMA fights that I usually see, especially from like the UFC, they mostly prioritize with using a lot of mixtures of striking and kicking, and then in certain cases, like the grappling is mostly there because I would like assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that the wrestling component is far more important, especially like if somebody tries to punch you and then try to like cancel that into like a grappling, takedown. And I was like thinking in terms of that, like that's that's far more like the bigger risk that probably proposes like a much greater challenge, up against like harder matchups.
100%, because it's also a check to yourself that one wrong move and you could end up on the ground and get pummeled on. Because in boxing, stances are different. See, you could step deep into a punch with your lead leg, but if your leg is too far in MMA, they will grab a single leg and just drag you down. So it's really a great risk that you take, because you have to worry about not only their punches and kicks, but you also have to worry about the takedown that's going to follow up with an overhand. Because remember, you can fake takedowns, you can fake an overhand to a takedown. Everything is just so risky, but you also have to be aware of what they're going to do with their body movement or whatever. That's the minor details we pay attention to when we train, whenever.
Oh, okay. I was curious to ask that because I was assuming that's usually how most of the like more high level competitive matches usually go. And in terms of like what you train for, like you basically prepare for anything that comes out of the like the style in terms of like what the like opponent is trying to like hide like away from.
What was that? Yeah. I'm sorry.
Hello.
Hello? Yeah, you were cutting out. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, like I'm sorry about that. Like I'm not too sure if that's the lobby server acting up. I was trying to ask in terms of did my voice break up? Like I
Yeah.
apologize.
And then that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, like I was trying to ask in terms of the preparation of of like fighting like certain styles that propose like a much greater danger in the high level matches. Do you prepare for the unexpected of like what is presented in front of you in terms of like how you see shots coming at you and how you respond to it in terms of the defensive IQ?
Yeah, because like in where I train, there's a bunch of different fighters, amateur fighters, so they all have different styles to how they fight. Some people like to fight as like a sleek movement, people like to fight inside, high guard. So we most definitely train in different varieties and styles, so we really prepare for unexpected moves that come our way. So when we fight against a style that we trained against, we can understand a move that we don't do, but that they do, that we can defend or counter.
Oh, okay. Um, in terms of like, I would say of like of in terms of what the training that you go through, what's like the training that you focus on like the most when you're with like your training stable, right?
Yeah. Mostly I focus on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and kickboxing, but as of now, since my injury on my wrist, I focus more on kickboxing now. But mostly I just focus on all around kickboxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, okay. Do you focus on trying to um utilize like the fundamental technique with like how to like formulate like the shots that you're producing in terms of like I would say like the fundamental style, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yep. Oh no, no, like I wanted to just ask that, but I guess I'll follow up with that. In terms of like the fundamental training that you go through, like what are like the drills that you focus on in terms of like how you train?
we mostly focus on combinations and how to set stuff up, especially with our lead hand, like feints or trying to set up for a kick. And we just mostly focus on combinations and setups. That way, when we ever get into a fight, amateur fight, we know when we get close or when we're outside fighting, we know how to set certain kicks up or certain punches that we know will land.
Oh, okay. In terms of, I guess like certain fighters that you look up to, in MMA, do you have like a certain favorite list of fighters that you like looking up to for MMA?
Of course, there's so many, but my top three, or yeah, my top three fighters that I look up to that are in the UFC, obviously Alex Pereira, the number one, like
Oh yeah, yeah,
exciting.
all the time.
Yeah. And then I will have to say Habib due to the fact that I wouldn't say Islam because Habib was the greatest of all time, 29 and 0. His
Yeah,
wrestling style was just impeccable and like I just really loved how he kept that aggression when he was on the ground, and that's how I like mixing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I just mix it with that aggression and that tightness that he just has on the ground. And then for my third, obviously my sensei, Lyman Good, he really helped me a lot and brought me into the MMA world. So those are my top three.
yeah. That's interesting that you say that. For mine, I I'm like I would probably say that I'm like a pretty old school type of guy because I am getting old, but for me, like I like Chuck Liddell, I like Matt Hughes, I like um oh man, who's that other guy? Um he's like the guy that fought John Jones, Rashid Smith, right? I think that's his name.
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh no, no, his name was Rashad Evans.
The guy
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the goatee, correct?
yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That was like the guy that John Jones knocked out. But I liked him. I like Josh Koscheck. He was awesome. I like George St. Pierre. He was a monster.
Oh yeah.
Um, I liked Anthony Pettis. He was a absolute monster. Um, yeah, like I feel like those type of names are like the better opening figures that open up with the way for MMA. But as far as now, like I will definitely be on par with Alex Pereira, Islam Machakayev, but I'll probably put Khabib first over him. And I also like that other fighter. I'm trying to think of his name. He's I want to say that Brazilian fighter.
Charles Oliver.
Yep. I like
Yeah.
him. He's an absolute monster. He's really really good. I like him.
Yeah, I like his submission offense. That's what I like about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, about
Yeah,
him, how he fights. Just amazing.
yeah. But the like, I will say like I definitely respect BJJ a lot. I like the fighters that don't use like the I guess like the BJJ like too much, where they're trying to just utilize like the submission tactics. I like it when fighters use a lot more Greco-Roman style wrestling, so therefore they're mixing up like their I guess like their fundamental techniques when they're shooting for a grappling opportunity, because sometimes like in certain difficult matchups that certain Brazilian fighters go through in the UFC, I tend to see that they go for too many risky opportunities to try to submit somebody, but then eventually that gets overturned where somebody that has like really hard old school wrestling experience with like the Greco-Roman style, that can counter them in the neutral position, where if the opponent figures them out in the event of a submission, um, I would say a submission event, that usually can get overturned in terms of how they're situating themselves to get countered in a more difficult position per se.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask in terms of I guess like your future. Do you plan on trying to go like a certain direction with MMA where like in terms of like you going pro in the future, like where would you start as far as like your roadmap of like how that works with getting into the MMA world professionally?
Well, for starters, obviously, I'm gonna want to compete in a bunch of different tournaments just to get the feeling of competition, so I could obviously be mentally prepared for everything. And then when I'm turn 18, I'll probably be able to go in the cage just amateur wise. And from there, if my sensei and Joshu say that they think I'm ready to actually go pro, then my dream obviously is to make it to the UFC and to become the first Puerto Rican UFC champion, because what I've realized about it is that there hasn't been a fighter who is Puerto Rican who fought under the Puerto Rican flag and has became a UFC champion. So that's my
Well,
dream.
like I wanted to actually bring something up now that you said that. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Anthony Pettis. I believe he's Puerto Rican, right? I think he's Puerto Rican and Mexican, and I want to say he could have been like the first one, possibly.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like a bunch of Puerto Rican UFC fighters, most of them fight under the United States flag
Oh
because
yeah, yeah, true.
yeah, Puerto Rico was colonized. But me, I don't want to fight under the United States flag. Even though I was born in the US, I'm forever gonna be from Puerto Rico. That's my heritage, that's my blood. That's everything to me. That's what I fight under. So that's what I mean by becoming the first Puerto Rican UFC champion.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely respect that because I'm pretty much the same way. Like I wouldn't want to be saying that I'm gonna do something for Puerto Rico and say that I'm from New York, and then that's gonna say, well, like you're still representing Puerto Rico, but yet you're still having like the U.S. flag first before Puerto Rico. Like I find that to be very disingenuous. Um, in terms of that, I can definitely see that being um a more heavier representing feature, because I don't think any other athlete would ever do that if they were from like a different country, i.e. Mexico or Canada. So I think that's something that not a lot of people do ever really talk about, because I was ever like I will say, compared to my to my personal experiences of seeing people doing that, I don't think that's a very smart thing that people do, in terms of saying that if you're for Puerto Rico, but yet you're not. like going out of like your way to represent Puerto Rico, then I don't think that, like, in my mind, that you're actually doing anything for the island, because it's like if you're really being serious like about it, then you would go out of like your way to do it. And I think that's what a lot of people end up doing. They end up, like, being contradictory, like, with that particular mindset.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of, I would say, Puerto Rican athletes that you like, do you like any particular Puerto Rican athletes, like, for MMA or for other sports?
Well, obviously my sensei, he was Puerto Rican and he was a beast during his time.
Oh, nice.
So that will have to be one of my favorite Puerto Rican athletes. Also, even though I'm in the MMA world, I still love my Puerto Rican boxers, like Tito Trinidad, all those Puerto Rican boxers. They were just amazing during the time. And even though I wasn't alive during that,
Yeah.
I just love, I just love going
14 years
back and
old, little
watching.
boy.
Yeah, just love watching their fights and seeing how they just impacted the sport at such a young age. And it's like I can look up to them and like improve on myself and be like, I want to be up there one day. I want to be just like them.
Yeah, especially in terms of being like purely undisputed, beating, all the greatest opposition. I think that, like, I think that to me is like far more being more successful in terms of you going after like the big fish and taking out all the bigger titans, that are sitting like, in the way. And I don't think not a lot of people ever give credit to those people that actually took those risks back then. And in regards to boxing, I wanted to actually even ask you, do you even know who was the very first ever Puerto Rican boxing world champion back in the day?
I
No,
can't give
okay,
that.
like, you don't know.
Nope.
That man's name was Sixto Escobar, if I'm not mistaken. He was actually the very first ever undisputed world champion back in the one belt era, if I'm not mistaken. That was back in like the early 1900s, by I want to say in the 30s or 20s. But yeah, he was like the very first one, and then later on after that was Carlos Ortiz, which he became the very first, well, he became like the very first Puerto Rican to be two division undisputed world champion back in the one belt era with the NBA National Boxing Association, which later then became the WBA Boxing Belt Association, sanctioned by the institution. And then once the WBC came along after that, he became the two division um, undisputed world champion, being unified with those two belts and then the one belt before them. So um, those two people were undisputed, and then there was like another one. It was Juan Carlos Torres, which I believe he was a two belt undisputed unified world champion back at 175, and then after that was basically one belt champions, and then leading up to Amanda Serrano. She's at the very uh like she's the first female to be undisputed within like the four belt era, but she's technically like the she's like the fourth Puerto Rican to be undisputed as of right now in terms of the historical lineage.
Yeah.
Speaking of undisputed, do you plan on becoming undisputed in multiple weight classes?
That's the dream. If God allows me, it gives me the strength to be able to compete in another weight class, then I'm in and become undisputed, then that would be amazing for my career.
Yeah, because I think a lot of fighters don't want to become undisputed. They just like to say it and then they don't want to go for it. Figured I ask you now, so therefore, going fast forward into like the future, I can come back to this, like, if that ever happens.
Yeah.
What weight classes do you plan on, like, going for, in MMA?
Currently, I weigh at 155, so I compete at 155, but obviously I'm still growing, so I most likely would want to compete either in lightweight if I'm really that light, but it's not gonna be possible.
Uh,
But probably middleweight or light heavyweight, that'll be good to compete in, especially since there's so many great fighters from those divisions. And if I could become a champion in either one of those divisions, I could be in the Mount Rushmore of how they are if I'm really that good in the future.
yeah. Speaking of that, do you think that in MMA the ego of fighters saying that they want to be great around you, do you think in terms of how certain fighters hype themselves up, do you think it's like a more like challenging concept to kind of like push yourself there because like there's like a lot more risk in terms of like the style that you run into with difficult matchups, and the controversy behind that matchup isn't really that challenging because it's like you've seen it all in front of you because everything that you're training for now is preparing you for the more difficult tasks later.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's gonna have their ego, and because they obviously train for it, and then if they're doing good in their career, like let's say they go undefeated and everything, they if they decide to let it all get to them and have a big ego, they're obviously gonna talk a lot and hype themselves up. But me personally, I don't really like that. Even though, yeah, I understand you're great and everything, but to keep like to say that you're better than everybody else and everything because you are that good, one person that you even like you underestimate the most could be the same person that will knock you out and take your streak and take that belt. So I don't really, me personally, I don't like having an ego because I was never really raised like that. And me personally, I just don't like having an ego. And with people with egos, like I don't judge them because that's how they act. But it's not something I would surround myself with or really get myself into. But
Yeah, I figured that I asked you that because I do think that there's a very nepotistic mindset that some people like to get into, and I believe that the more successful athletes that do make it to the top, they don't ever really talk a lot. They just basically perform, and then they work hard, the next time like around to elevate their skill set. And I believe in MMA, that's the perfect sport where, the losses don't matter and people don't trash you when you fight somebody really good versus like compared to boxing, people will try to trash you to say, oh, well, who is this guy or who is that, like, girl or basically whatsoever. And it seems like that the matchmaking within MMA compared to boxing is far more like it's far more rewarding, but it's like at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter because it's like as long as you're improving and you're getting yourself elevated to that next level, it doesn't matter what the style is because that person that thinks that he is better than you, he's just gonna stay at the top forever. That's where the cult of personality mindset comes in, where they start fooling themselves with a false sense of security to lead themselves into a bigger trap to not see their weaknesses and to be exposed by, that one particular style matchup that somebody can upset them with.
yeah, a perfect example of that was Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman. Anderson Silva, obviously the one of the greatest of all time, but since he had the longest winning streak, he in that fight, that title fight with Chris Weidman, you can see how cocky he was getting, and he just lowered his defense, and that's when Chris just hit him with one punch and just ended his whole streak. That's the main thing I talk about when you get to a certain level, like at that certain level, and you start getting cocky like that. That one person you underestimate the most can take everything away from you.
Yeah, and I think like the great thing with MMA is that the losses really don't matter at the end of the day because you're growing extremely faster within your development. You're not like going a certain direction where you're just fighting bums and just fighting like low level opposition compared to boxing because it's like Like, I can name you like a whole bunch of fighters that have like a high positive record in boxing where they're like 42-0, and then it's like when you look up at their box rec, they're fighting guys from like Colombia that have like negative records, and then it's like they're not even proving themselves to even be great.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of MMA, do you think that like the structuring with MMA should be changed? Like, do you think like with everything with how it's being with how it's being set up right now, with like certain platforms like the UFC or Bellator, do you think that there should be like I guess like a different setup for it? Maybe like tournaments where fighters can actually get bigger financial opportunities to go through tournaments, and then it's like, let's just say if you're destroying everybody within tournaments, you can be like a much more higher known name because like you're beating all the top level opposition faster.
That would be cool because obviously back then, how the UFC started was just tournament based fighting. But as the time went on, they evolved into different like rules and everything. So the way how it is set up now, me personally, I like it because now you're allowed to do, I think, 12 to 6 elbows and then knee your opponent on the ground. But the aspect of being able to fight in a tournament and like be able to fight top level oppositions to get a bigger financial compensation for it, that would be a great thing for the MMA world because you will be able to get your name out there and also get a higher paycheck than you are for a show and then the win that you get from a fight.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people try to lie like about that to say that the UFC should be like kind of like the same setup of how boxing should operate off of that, and I usually disagree with that because it's like it should be like you're the boss of who you want to fight, but if you want to be the best, it should be set up where, hey, you want to be the best, in your division. How about you have these tournaments put in place where if you are dominating everybody in your weight class and you are by far the best fighter out there, and then you got like 1,000 plus other fighters that say that, it should be set up like that where, there's like no, I guess like certain like certain promotional functions that are trying to like just hold like a certain stable of fighters like together to promote their fighters and to like make it like how should you say politicize in a way where fighters are just picking and choosing versus like having like actual high scale tournaments where it should be kind of set up like in wrestling where you don't know who you're going to face, and as you go through like the tournament, it's basically set up where you can go up against like any difficult style, and then it's like that can be like randomized where like one fight could be like a really tough guy, and then like the next fight could be like a really awkward, medium difficult level guy. So I think like having tournaments like that will easily like make fights more exciting to watch because different style matchups like will be tested a lot more higher.
Yeah, I feel like what you said is a really like great thing that could possibly happen in the future if any promotional organization wants to do that. But I like that. I like that idea because me personally, I would compete. I would love to compete in such a tournament like that because it really brings out like who really is the best fighter in that division, except for me being a champion and picking, oh, I want to fight this guy. Oh, I don't want to fight this guy. I could pick to fight a number 4 ranked contender and not give the number 1 contender a title shot.
Yeah.
It's like I have no choice. And that's the good thing about what you said, that they don't really get a choice to say who they want to fight or not because they have to fight that person who made it up there to see who really is the best fighter in that division.
Yeah, and compared to boxing, as you look at it within sanctioned bodies, there's a lot of political corruption where a lot of promotionals, like like firms, will pay lump sums of money just to get their fighters ranked out of nowhere, and then it's like you just tend to wonder to be like, wait, how did this guy make it to top three while you're out here beating on real tough level opposition? And then this fighter can just jump right in front of you because it's like he's just connected with all the bigger names, and then his family is connected to blah 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 who, and I don't find that to be fair because it's like, dude, like you didn't do anything to get up there, so it's like, that shouldn't be your, right for you to be given, that type of leeway just to like jump in front of everybody else.
Yeah, I dislike that when people buy their way in to anything and not earning it. It honestly is kind of like a disgrace to the sport, and it's disrespectful because you didn't really earn it like the rest of us did. You, you just bought your way in. So it's honestly kind of messed up, but at the end of the day, some people can't control that until they really step into the ring or the octagon with that person.
Yeah, great example of that in MMA is like the Royce Gracie family.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't like them, but I used to like them when I was young. But then as I got older, I was like, yeah, I don't like looking up to people like that. So I like looking up to real, good fighters.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess the final question I will conclude with is what is the final goal of what you're trying to influence with your fan base audience, when it's all said and done with MMA?
Believe in yourself, and if you really put your mind to it and put effort and have determination, you could accomplish anything. But also remember the people who were there for you when you were nothing and had nothing. And now when you are something, take those people up with you because they supported you from the beginning when you were nothing, and that's really it. Just if you could set your mind to it and you can speak it and put effort into it, you could accomplish anything in the world.
Yeah, I definitely like agree with that. I wanted to ask like another final question.
Of
In
course.
terms of like where things are right now, do you think what the process of like where you are right now should be like, I guess like a more like developmental path where, you start with like a good stable and then you generate like a really good chemistry and then over time, you start looking at like a much greater development as you get older. And do you think that's how every fighter should start out? Like, do you think that there should be certain tracks where you build yourself up, like the right way versus like trying to like fast track like yourself to get to like a level that you're not sure that you can make?
Yeah, I believe that every fighter should really take their time and take steps instead of just skipping certain steps to achieve your goal because I know people who've tried so much to do advanced moves at such a beginner level that if they tried doing that in competition, which happened once, that they just lost because they did a move that is at too advanced for them at such a beginner level that they lost. So most definitely take the time to learn everything in your level so you can keep climbing up the steps or the ladder, whatever analogy you want to put it in. Just go in the direction that your coaches tell you to go to, and don't try to push yourself to do anything faster because everything takes its time. That's the main thing. Everything takes its time.
Yeah, most definitely. I also forgot to ask, like, when you do go pro in the future, do you have any certain venues that like, that you would like to fight at, if that ever is presented one day?
Obviously, I would like to fight in Madison Square Garden because
Nice.
that's that's obviously like an arena that I've been to multiple times because obviously for events like WWE, but also like for other UFC venues as well. It was crazy. Also, like T-Mobile Arena, like the home staple of the UFC, like I would love to fight there. There's been so many great fights there that I would love to fight in that venue. So yeah, those will have to be my top two. And if I had to say a third one, it'll probably be the Barclays Center.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, I've been to the Madison Square Garden, but the bigger one at the Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor fight on my birthday that day, and that was awesome. I ran into like a lot of crazy Irish people, and the Puerto Ricans. They were there, like backing me because, like like I was like pushing for like Amanda, and I got Puerto Rican blood myself, but that was like the best night ever, and I would always go back to like to the MSG if there was like another like event like that. So um, yeah, like I definitely like to like see that for your career, like if that happens. But could it ever be possible if you could ever have a fight in Puerto Rico, if that could be made in the
Oh,
UFC?
that would be amazing if the UFC was able to like go to Puerto Rico and have a venue there. That would be the most number one venue I'll ever compete in, because that's where, like, that's my hair. That's where I come from. Like I
Yeah,
said, even though I was born here, I always bring in that Puerto Rican heritage and blood into the sport. So just for me to be able to showcase my style of fighting in Puerto Rico, it would just be amazing. It would be a dream come true. Just to fight in Puerto Rico, amazing.
yeah, because I was gonna say, take a look at WWE when Bad Bunny went up against Damian Priest. Like that was like extremely packed. So
Oh
I
yeah.
don't see why, like why Puerto Rico can't do that. I think it would be absolutely huge if that could ever just be headlined with a lot of big names, like especially out of like the island, or just bring other names out there. So that's why that I wanted to ask that because like I don't think the UFC had ever done that before.
No, I remember the UFC doing it. It was in the Sphere. It was the Mexican Independence Day where they had a
Oh
bunch
yeah.
of fighters fight. If the UFC was able to do an event like that for Puerto Rico, and I was able to headline it in the near future or in the future in general, I would. It'll be an honor to just fight for my people.
Yeah, do it for Bodecan. That would be
Yeah.
a great experience, man. But yeah, I think that pretty much concludes everything. Like I wanted to go like a little bit longer, but I don't want to like eat up like your time. So hopefully like I can do this again, but uh if you have any last words, say it, and like I definitely like to have like another show with you, man.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It was amazing talking to you, and especially since it's like my first time ever doing anything like this. This is grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity. But again, thank you. It'll be an honor to talk to you again. It was fun. And for anybody who's watching this, just remember, don't give up on your dreams, because I'm still chasing mine, and it's bringing me up in life. So just don't ever forget your dreams and achieve it. Put in that work.
Yeah, most definitely. I appreciate like getting the show in with you, and like I'll definitely keep in contact with you, and I'm definitely excited for for the future. So thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Yes, sir. I will see you later.
All right, see ya.
All right, peace out, bro.
Peace.
Yep. All right, y'all. I appreciate you guys for coming through. Just wanted to get the show in with Skyler. Very, very good. Up and coming athlete. Just wanted to get that out there. I will make a post fight live for Bivol versus Better Beerov, and I'll talk about the pro box card, and then after that, we'll probably cover. I'll probably cover like the 360 fight promotions. I'll talk about that from last night. So all right, I will see you guys later. Huge big shout out to Skyler Suarez. Definitely go check him out. I'll put his Instagram handle in the description after this live's over. So yep. Huge big shout out to him. And yeah, here's the outro, and I will see you guys later. All right. Give me 1 second. I'm going to end this. Oh wait, can I end it? Yep, I can. All right. All right. Here's the outro. I will see you guys later.